The 1920s were a time of enormous social and cultural change in America. War-weary Americans elected Warren G. Harding as president in 1920. Harding promised a return to normalcy after World War I. He wanted to isolate the United States from the rest of the world and focus on issues at home. Harding's term as president ushered in an era of prosperity, rapid industrialization, social experimentation, and artistic growth that became known as the Roaring Twenties. At the close of World War I, the United States had slipped into an economic slump. President Harding and his successor, Calvin Coolidge, believed that the country's future lay in big business, and they worked to support industrial growth. As a result, unemployment dropped, production increased, and wages rose. Americans earned more money. They invested more of it in the stock market, and the market soared. Many people borrowed money to invest in the booming market. During the Roaring Twenties, Americans enjoyed the highest quality of life in the world. Basic utilities such as natural gas, hot and cold running water, and electricity became widely available. Americans could buy new refrigerators, washing machines, vacuum cleaners, and other electrical appliances. Affordable mass-produced automobiles made people more mobile. Moving pictures were transformed by the introduction of sound. And radios brought news and entertainment directly into people's homes for the first time and ushered in the information age. The 20s saw the spread of the uniquely American music called jazz. Originally created by African American musicians in New Orleans, jazz became popular across the country. Thanks to the 19th Amendment, women voted in a national election for the first time in 1920. But women made other advances in the 1920s as well. The Women's Trade Union League worked to improve working conditions for women. And more women than ever graduated from high school, attended college, and got jobs. Young women in particular benefited from these changes. Some women, known as flappers, adopted a new style of dress and behavior that challenged many accepted social norms. But the 20s were also a time of religious, racial, ethnic, and political conflict. After years of lobbying by members of the temperance movement, the nation approved the 18th Amendment in 1919. This new law made the production, distribution, and sale of alcohol illegal. It ushered in a period called Prohibition. Almost immediately, thousands of illegal bars sprang up. Called speakeasies, these hidden bars became popular places to gather. Bootlegging, the illegal importing of alcohol, also became widespread. The largest groups of bootleggers were organized crime gangs. These gangs were often led by powerful figures such as Al Capone, who used violence and intimidation to create sprawling gangland empires. Although it remained a law throughout the 20s, Prohibition became increasingly difficult to enforce, and the rise in crime it produced became a serious problem. Fear of foreigners was common during this decade. Many Americans became anxious when communists took control of Russia because they feared the same thing could happen at home. This fear became known as the Red Scare, and it led to the rounding up and mistreatment of thousands of people suspected of being communists, socialists, and anarchists. Fear and intolerance also led to the growth of the Ku Klux Klan. This group rejected the notion of racial equality. At its height in 1924, the Klan had more than 4 million members, including politicians and members of law enforcement. New immigrants and members of minority groups were often persecuted during the 20s. Economic problems also loomed. The country's wealth was largely controlled by a small portion of the population. Top businessmen reaped huge benefits. But many workers and farmers struggled to make a living and often went into debt. This growing divide between the rich and the poor, along with a decrease in industrial production and overspeculation in the stock market, set the stage for a looming economic crisis that would bring the Roaring Twenties to a screeching halt.